want to go to Bob Barr on this issue of a potential gag order. You remember him, of course, as the former House manager during the Clinton impeachment trial, a former Georgia Congressman, now the Liberty Guard chairman. Bob, great to have you. If you don't mind, I'd like to pursue this gag order possibility. It seems remote, but I guess it could happen, and it would mean the former president couldn't speak to the media at all. But by extension, would that apply, again, if it were to come to campaigning for President of the United States, as he is and as he has been for some time?
Of course, nothing about this case is usual, and that includes your question about a gag order. Normally, in a case in which the parties or one of the parties speaks improperly about a case, can be subject to a gag order. In this case, you run right up against the political aspects of this with a presidential candidate. But a judge has tremendous leeway in crafting a gag order to be very specific, not prohibiting the parties from discussing the case itself, but discussing particular aspects of the case. And I think if the judge were to do that, it probably would withstand constitutional muster.
Does it apply to Alvin Bragg? In other words, he's planning to speak to reporters, we're told, Bob, after this whole affair ends today. Would it apply to him as well?
I suspect it probably would. The judge in this case would want to bend over backwards to appear to be fair to both sides, so that it probably would apply to the district attorney. Now, again, it wouldn't prohibit the district attorney from saying anything about the case. The public has a right to know, and the courts understand that. So it would simply mean that aspects of the case, the proceedings themselves, could not be commented on by either party, but both parties could speak generally about the case, perhaps.
I'm just wondering where you think this goes. I mean, you were handling the Clinton impeachment trial. Of course, that started with looking at a variety of land deals and real estate transactions involving Bill and Hillary Clinton. And going back to his days as governor, a candidate for governor, it veered into a whole number of other issues. A lot of people are focused on the 34 counts around this supposedly focused attack on what the president did and as a candidate for president did to pay off a porn star or to pay off other women. But the far more worrisome cases for him are what happened in Georgia and whether he over-involved himself in the recount there, classified documents, the January 6th assault on the Capitol. This isn't it. So what do you make of it?
I think this case probably will go in a completely different direction than the other two cases that you did mention. The Mar-a-Lago potential obstruction case down there, to me, is the most serious and has the most substance to it. But this case in New York, even though publicly it seems to be focused on just one payoff, there is at least one other payment to a former Playboy bunny, as I recall, or Playmate of the Year, some nonsense. Right. And it really could be problematic for Mr. Trump if, in fact, the district attorney is able to link together a series of communications that even continued during the time that Trump was president. That would make it very problematic for Mr. Trump to simply slide away from this.
You know, the judge involved in this case, Judge Juan, it's the same judge who was involved in that Trump Organization business case that resulted in the former president's CFO going off to jail for 4 months. I'm wondering, though, whether that is something that the former president can argue shows not only the venue being unfair, but the guy handling it being unfair.
I don't think that would really convince the courts in New York, nor should it. I suspect that this case is being handled by the judge that handled the Trump Organization case as a related case, which is standard procedure, where you have a judge that is handling one issue, but there is a related defendant or related issues, and those would be assigned to the same judge. So I don't think that trying to remove this judge on that ground would be successful.
Bob, this last question will be more political than anything else. But you've lived through a number of these in the past involving presidents and former presidents. I'm just wondering, where do you see this going, and whether whatever boost Donald Trump has had in the polls, the drip nature of not only this case but maybe other cases to follow will force him out of the race? Do you see that?
It's difficult with Mr. Trump, who seems to feed off of the publicity, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. If it relates to him, he loves it. But I think that if, in fact, we see, and this is a big if, one or two other indictments coming down, particularly a federal indictment out of the Mar-a-Lago potential obstruction case, I think it would be very difficult for Mr. Trump to continue and pretend that everything is hunky-dory and he's a candidate and is going to move forward. So I think that would be a real problem for the Trump campaign and for the American people.
Well, watch it closely. Bob Barr, thank you for taking the time. Very good to see you again.
Thank you.